Before we wrap up today, there's one developing news in women's basketball that is too big to ignore. It touches Caitlin Clark, the WNBA, Stephen A. Smith, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, and the entire power structure of professional sports as we know it. For months, the conversation around Caitlin Clark has centered on how she's been treated, the hard fouls, the welcome to the league hits, the attitude from some veterans, the snubs around things like the Olympic roster. A lot of that has been framed as jealousy, resentment, or an unwillingness from the old guard to embrace the face of a new era in women's basketball. While that drama has played out publicly, something else has reportedly been happening quietly in the background. According to multiple rumors and early reports, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the same sovereign wealth fund that shook up golf with LIV and has poured billions into global soccer, is eyeing a move into women's basketball. And the names at the top of their wish list are Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. This isn't talk about a shoe deal or a typical overseas contract. The number being floated is a potential billion-dollar disruption, a massive investment into a new league or tour built around a handful of marketable stars. Stephen A. Smith, who has become one of the loudest voices criticizing how the WNBA and USA Basketball have handled Clark, has essentially validated that these conversations are real enough to worry the league. To understand why that should have everyone's attention, you have to look first at who is talking. Stephen A. Smith has not been shy about calling out what he sees as mishandling of Caitlin Clark. While some analysts downplayed the physical play and tension she's faced as just competition, he went on national television and labeled it what a lot of fans already thought: jealousy. He questioned why a player who drove historic ratings for the NCAA and immediately impacted the WNBA would be flying commercial while some teams still chartered for less marketable players. He blasted the Kennedy Carter hip check that went viral, asking where Clark's teammates were and why the league was letting its most visible star get hammered without consequences. But in the last few weeks, his tone has shifted slightly from pure criticism of WNBA culture to a warning about basic economics. Smith has repeated a simple point: in modern sports, the market corrects itself. You can't keep a player whose value is in the hundreds of millions of dollars locked into a system that pays her less than $80,000 a year and expect that no one with real money will notice. That's where the Saudi rumors come in. The WNBA operates under a tight salary cap. As a rookie, Caitlin Clark signed a 4-year deal worth about $338,000 total. Her first-year salary is around $76,000. By NBA standards, that's what a deep bench player makes in a few days. Even within women's sports, when you compare the revenue Clark has already brought in, that number looks wildly out of step. In just a few months since she was drafted, WNBA attendance surged. Fever road games sold out or saw drastic jumps. Jersey sales for Clark and other stars spiked. TV ratings that hadn't been touched in decades were suddenly being smashed. ESPN and other networks were pulling in record numbers for regular season Indiana Fever games. There was a direct, measurable Caitlin Clark effect. Meanwhile, that same system caps her pay at a number that, in some major markets, wouldn't even comfortably cover a mortgage. The WNBA's standard defense has been that the league is not yet profitable, that it's lost money for most of its 27-year history, that salaries match revenue reality. But Clark's presence has started to move those financial goalposts. Sponsors, broadcasters, and team owners see the upside. They're making more because she's in the league. She, however, is still bound by an old salary structure negotiated long before her arrival. Enter the Saudi Public Investment Fund. This is an entity that doesn't deal in nickels and dimes. It deals in billions. When Saudi Arabia looks at an asset like Caitlin Clark, it doesn't see a rookie guard. It sees a global face of women's basketball who's being paid pennies relative to what she generates. If reports of $1 billion war chest for women's hoops are accurate, any offer to Clark wouldn't look like a typical contract. It would look like a partnership, a stake in something massive. Think about what LIV Golf did. For decades, the PGA Tour was the unquestioned home of elite men's golf. The tour controlled purses, schedules, and media rights. When LIV arrived, they didn't try to bargain for a TV slot and a small slice of the pie. They went straight to the top players and dropped unprecedented money on the table. Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka. Players in or near the end of their prime received 9-figure guarantees simply to change tours.
There was outrage. There were congressional hearings. There were think pieces on sports washing and Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Players were called greedy, but a lot of them took the money. And once a critical mass moved, the PGA Tour itself had to negotiate. Within a couple of years, a framework for cooperation and merged interests emerged. The disruptive force didn't vanish. It forced the incumbent to change. Now apply that blueprint to women's basketball. The WNBA is far more vulnerable than the PGA ever was. Players are underpaid relative to their impact. Travel conditions have only recently begun to improve under public pressure. Some veterans are openly frustrated with pay and treatment. Young stars feel targeted on the court and unsupported off of it. From a purely business standpoint, that looks like a target of opportunity. If a billionaire-backed league or tour wants to take aim at women's basketball, it doesn't need all 144 WNBA players. It needs 2 or 3 at the top, especially the ones who define the conversation. Caitlin Clark is the obvious first name. The second rumored target, Sophie Cunningham, might surprise some people at first glance. Why not A'ja Wilson? Why not Breanna Stewart? They are the best players in the world, champions, MVPs. The answer, if the reporting is accurate, isn't about PER or win shares. It's about marketability and demographics. Sophie Cunningham has built a strong personal brand. Fans know her for the way she plays, physical, emotional, fearless, but also for her charisma in front of cameras. She's active on social media, she stands out visually, and she's become one of those players broadcasters cut to on the bench because they know viewers react. Pair that type of personality with Caitlin Clark's star power, and you have a duo that checks every marketing box. Transcendent talent, plus a gritty, charismatic enforcer who already has a fan base of her own. In an age where sports properties are sold as entertainment as much as competition, that pairing is not an accident. Stephen A. Smith has made that point and picked his spots. Sports is a business. You need faces who sell tickets, drive merchandise, and attract casual fans. The talent has to be there on the floor, but in 2024 and beyond, that's not enough. The ability to move numbers off the court matters too. All of that raises the obvious question, why would Caitlin Clark even entertain leaving the WNBA, the league she said she dreamed of playing in, the pathway that goes from NCAA to draft night to being the #1 pick, for a startup backed by foreign money? If the WNBA and its culture had embraced her completely, that choice would be harder, but that's not how her rookie year played out. Before she played a minute, Diana Taurasi went on national TV during the Women's Final Four and delivered a warning: reality is coming. Many heard that not as advice, but as a shot from an icon who felt threatened by a rising wave. Once Clark reached the WNBA court, things got rough quickly. She was picked up 94 feet, hit with hard screens, knocked down on drives. None of that by itself is unusual. Rookies get tested. But the Kennedy Carter hip check that became the clip seen around the world did not look like a basketball play at all. It looked like a message from the old guard. On top of that, the Olympic snub sent its own statement. The most discussed player in the sport, the one network execs build promo packages around, didn't even get a roster spot for Paris. USA Basketball said it was a pure basketball decision based on experience. Fans and commentators, including Stephen A. Smith, saw it very differently, a power move by the old guard. Add in commercial flights instead of consistent charters, the pile-on criticism when she struggled, the muted response from some league voices when she was targeted physically, and it starts to feel less like initiating a rookie and more like trying to push her back into her place. Now contrast that environment with what Saudi money could offer. Private jets, 5-star hotels, fewer games, no back-to-backs, salaries that reflect global star status, and a league structure built explicitly around making her the centerpiece. This is also not the first time someone has tried to pull Clark into an alternative format. Earlier, Ice Cube and the Big Three publicly offered her $5 million to play 8 games in that 3-on-3 men's league. That single offer was larger than her entire rookie WNBA contract. At that time, she turned it down, saying she wanted to focus on the fever, the W, and winning at the highest level in the women's game. But that was before she had experienced a full WNBA season, before the hazing, before the Olympic snub, and before billion-dollar rumors started swirling. A one-off side gig is different from a structured global competition with real backing.
From the WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the league office, the possibility that Clark could jump to any rival is a nightmare scenario. Right now, the league is trying to leverage its growth into a richer media rights deal. They're talking to networks and streaming platforms, pointing to graphs showing year-over-year jumps in viewership, ticket sales, and social engagement. A huge part of that pitch is the Caitlin Clark effect. Broadcasters are not blind. They know what games delivered the largest audiences. They know which players' clip packages dominate SportsCenter and social feeds. They're negotiating not just for the WNBA brand, but for guaranteed access to Clark in a WNBA product. If she leaves for a Saudi-backed league or tour, all of that leverage evaporates. The value of those rights deals, based on projected growth around her, has to be recalculated. If she's no longer there, are ESPN, Amazon, or anyone else writing the same check? Probably not. The irony is sharp. Players and voices within the league who downplayed her importance or actively pushed back against her rise could end up losing money themselves if her departure deflates the media market. Of course, as soon as Saudi PIF is mentioned with any sport, the ethical debates start. We saw it with LIV Golf. We saw it when Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, and others signed with Saudi Pro League clubs. People pointed to human rights concerns, accused athletes and leagues of being used in sports washing to clean up an image on the world stage. Those concerns are serious and real. But across the sports world, we've also seen how money changes the conversation. NBA teams have long taken sponsorship dollars and partnerships linked to countries and companies with their own controversial records. Tennis players compete in Dubai and Doha. Golf tours, soccer leagues, even Olympic committees constantly navigate these issues. For women's sports especially, the financial pressure is different. Many WNBA players spend winters overseas because they need additional income. Some have taken lucrative contracts in Russia, Turkey, and China. When a player who's been earning under six figures is suddenly looking at offers 50 times larger, the moral calculus is brutal. Armchair critics don't have to fund other people's retirements or healthcare. The athletes do. Fans will absolutely be divided if Clark, Cunningham, or any WNBA star signs with the Saudi-backed league. Some will boycott. Others will follow the talent wherever it goes. History suggests that once the initial outrage fades, a lot of people end up watching anyway. LIV Golf broadcasts founded audience. The PGA ended up negotiating. Soccer viewers didn't permanently abandon Cristiano Ronaldo. On top of that, there's the question of league structure. The rumored format for a new women's basketball venture, backed by that kind of money, would likely not look exactly like the WNBA. Some insiders suggest something closer to golf and tennis, a tour model, where top players travel city to city, playing high-stakes events rather than grinding through a 40-game regular season. Picture a series of showcase tournaments in New York, Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, Dubai, perhaps even on neutral global hubs with a smaller roster of elite players and star names at every stop. Shorter seasons, bigger paychecks, and no long bus rides or budget flights. For players at the very top, that model has appeal. Sophie Cunningham's inclusion in these rumors also points to an understanding that personality drives engagement. A duo like Clark and Cunningham at the core of a tour offers a storyline every week: the shooter and the enforcer, the highlight machine and the agitator. Add a carefully chosen supporting cast, other young stars, international standouts, a few veteran legends who decide to cash in, and you have a made-for-TV product ready to compete for attention. One thing stands out in all this speculation. Nobody from Clark's camp, Cunningham's camp, or USA Basketball has rushed out a strong denial. When rumors are completely baseless, agents are usually quick to step in and shut them down to protect focus and negotiation positions. Here, it has mostly been silence. In sports, silence is often the first sign that something has at least been discussed. It doesn't guarantee a deal will happen, but it signals that the possibility is real enough that people are choosing their words carefully. They might be using the interest as leverage in collective bargaining. They might be weighing the public relations hit against the financial upside, or they might simply be waiting for the right moment to announce a move.
So where does that leave women's basketball? Right now, it's on the edge of what could be the biggest structural change in its history. The WNBA has more attention than ever, the NCAA women's game is booming, the national team is in transition, bringing in new faces. At the same time, global capital is circling, looking for undervalued properties to invest in. Caitlin Clark sits at the center of that crossroad. The way she's been treated within the current system has created space for an outside entity to step in and say, "You are worth more. We will prove it." If a $1 billion investment into a new women's basketball product really is on the table, led by Clark and other stars, we're not talking about a sideshow. We're talking about a rival center of gravity. If that happens, the WNBA will have to decide whether to fight, negotiate, adapt, or risk becoming secondary to whatever new platform emerges. The league's veterans will have to grapple with the fact that their reaction to a generational rookie may have accelerated the very change they fear. And fans will have a choice to make: stay loyal to the existing league, follow the stars to the new one, or split their time between both. Would you watch a breakaway Saudi-backed women's basketball tour built around Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham? Or would you stick strictly with the WNBA as the primary home for the sport? How fans answer that question, with their views and their wallets, might end up determining what women's basketball looks like for the next 20 years.